Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited to be here to be talking about the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences. We have a really awesome panel lined up to you, but before we get started with introductions, the way this will work is you can drop your questions and your comments into the chat box, and we will be sure to do our best to address as many as possible. With that, we will get started. So whatever questions you have, please start to put them in so that we can start to queue them up and answer them for you. So my name is Elizabeth Bernstein. I recently graduated from Northwestern with a degree in neuroscience and a minor in psychology. While on campus, I was involved in a couple different student organizations, the most pressing of them to me being Camp Kesem. And then I also have been working for the Office of Admissions for pretty much my entire time at Northwestern, and I'm really excited to be here to chat with all of you today. So, Kandise, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself next?
Sure thing. Thanks, Elizabeth. Hi, everyone. My name is Kandise Blanc. Like Elizabeth, I'm also a recent graduate. I graduated from the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences with a Bachelor of Arts in Creative Writing and from the Beaton School of Music with a Bachelor of Music in Voice Performance and Opera. I'm originally from Long Beach, California, so I'm coming to you from a very nice early 9 a.m. today. And in addition, I've served as a senior admissions counselor and a tour guide coordinator during my time at Northwestern. One of my favorite things that I was a part of was our ever-thriving a cappella community. I was a part of a co-ed a cappella group called the X Factors. With that, I'll pass it off to Adam.
How's it going, y'all? My name is Adam Downing. I am a rising senior. I'm right now in Denver, Colorado, where I grew up. I study political science and American history with a minor in something called legal studies, which is basically just more political science and American history. When I'm not giving tours on Zoom, you guys can find me as a part of Northwestern College Democrats. I'm a large member of Northwestern Hillel, as well as many other political-based organizations on campus. And I will popcorn it over to Maddie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maddie. I'm a rising third year from Chicago, Illinois. I'm majoring in biology, anthropology, and integrated science, which is a major that combines math, physics, chemistry, and bio all into one. And things that I do on campus is I'm in Supplies for Dreams, which is an education nonprofit. I also do a lot of research on campus. I can pass it on to Bree.
Hey y'all, my name is Bree. I'm from Raynham, Massachusetts. I'm a rising third year student and my majors are psychology and communication studies. And one thing I like to do on campus is work on Northwestern's premier late night talk show group, The Blackout, and I also do research on campus.
Awesome. Thank you so much to everyone for introducing yourselves. So while we wait for our first questions to trickle in, we will get started with some of the basics, the Weinberg 101. So let's start off talking a little bit about distribution requirements. Adam, would you want to walk us through what distribution requirements look like in Weinberg?
Yeah, of course. This is actually one of my favorite things to talk about because I think it makes Weinberg really, really unique. So basically, distribution requirements, it's best to think of as kind of buckets of knowledge that you have to fill in your time at Northwestern. So these are whole sections of classes that the university is going to ask you to take. So these could include things like natural sciences, history, hard sciences. And they're going to say that we would like you to take a few classes in each one of these buckets. They're not going to mandate that everybody has to take like physics 101 or that everybody has to take a writing course, but instead they're going to give you these kind of loose themes that they want to make sure you get so you get the best out of your liberal arts education. Now, the reason why I say I like talking about this so much is because Northwestern really does let you do such a diverse number of things with these distribution requirements. So for example, I'm a political science kid. I promised when I came to Northwestern that I would never pick up another calculator in my entire life, but we have something called formal studies. And that more or less is a math requirement, except there are tons of ways that you can do that without ever taking a math class. So for me, I took Introduction to Logic, which essentially is logic puzzles and things that might be useful on an LSAT, or for somebody who's more interested in the social sciences versus the hard sciences. They're gonna ask you to take 12 of these classes over your time at Northwestern, broken up into 6 different categories. And we can go into those if you guys have questions. But I think distribution requirements are a really great way that Northwestern actually encourages students to take things that might be a little bit outside of their comfort zone without forcing them to take really hard requirements.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So we have a question talking about a class that you've taken that you really enjoyed. Kandise, do you want to talk to us about a couple or one class that you've taken that you've really enjoyed?
For For sure. I think the first one I'll talk about is called Marriage 101, Building Loving and Lasting Relationships. It's housed in our School of Education and Social Policy. And I am a creative writing and opera major, so neither of those specializations involve human developmental psychological services. But with this course, I took it during my 4th year, and it's one of our most popular courses here at Northwestern. And it's all about learning how to be vulnerable, and that way you're able to not only navigate romantic partners, but also job environments, as well as, for me at the time, living with 3 roommates. And it was great being able to work with this faculty member who is world-renowned in her field, but also being able to engage with her one-on-one. So now it's been just over a year and a half since I've had her course. She recently had a new book come out, and she signed it for me, even though I was a student for hers in the past. So that was a really great experience for me. Another one more directly related to my major, I took a course called The Chicago Way in the English Literature Department. And with that, the professor taught us all about different kinds of literature based on either authors in Chicago. Pardon me, it's street sweeping day, so if you hear things going on outside. But so we were reading literature all based in Chicago by Chicago artists. And at the end of the course, the professor led us around a 5-hour biking tour across the entire city of Chicago. And if you're familiar with the geography of Chicago, ranging from as north as Wrigley Field, as south as the Sox Stadium, we were able to finally see all the wonderful things that we had spent the entire quarter talking about.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I know I've also taken some really exciting classes, and a lot of those classes actually came from the distribution requirement system that Adam so wonderfully explained for us earlier. It even allowed me to take classes outside of the College of Arts and Sciences. So while having both of my majors within Weinberg, it was a really great opportunity to really explore other disciplines. So I took a class in the Beanan School of Music, despite my immense lack of musical talent, on the history of rock. And so that was overall really, really exciting. We're going to switch and talk a little bit about research. We have some questions about Maddie and Bree, what y'all did your research on. So Maddie, do you want to start us off telling us a little bit about what you've looked into? And then Bree, you can go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm currently working in a biological anthropology lab on campus where we study the gut microbiome of human and non-human primates, which is really fancy schmancy talk for monkey poop research. And it's super fun and I really enjoyed it. And I think what's really great about research at Northwestern is that it's super accessible even as undergraduate students. Northwestern allots over $3.5 million each year to Northwestern students for undergraduate research. So it's really great that both professors are super accommodating, always willing to have student researchers in their labs, but also that it's also financially accessible for many students. This summer, I'm actually using a summer undergraduate research grant from our Office of Undergraduate Research to do some independent research studying the relationship between pregnancy and the gut microbiome. And what that is, it's a $3,500 grant that Northwestern provides. That's a living stipend for you to do research with. You apply with a 2-page grant, and there's tons of people in the Office of Undergraduate Research who are super accommodating. We're providing students with help and assistance with writing grants and kind of taking you through that process. So it's really great. Bree, do you want to talk about your research?
Yeah, for sure. So I just like to echo what Maddie said about how accessible research at Northwestern is. I pretty much decided that I wanted to do research, but I decided to wait till my 2nd year of college to do it, just to give me some time to assimilate into school. And I actually emailed my first lab and they got back to me within a day and they were like, okay, like you can be a research assistant. So as soon as I became a research assistant at the Lifespan Development Lab at Northwestern, which studies emotion, so it's like a psychology lab, they actually showed me how to apply for the undergraduate research grant that Maddie was talking about. And I'm actually currently doing my summer undergraduate research project right now on smiles in married couples.
Very cool. Thank you both so much for sharing. I also want to emphasize that research at Northwestern is not solely STEM focused. I know, Adam, you've done some non-STEM research. So would you want to talk about what you've looked into?
Yeah, of course. I'm not a STEM guy, like I said, and there are tons of opportunities regardless of your major to go and do research. So I know people in the School of Communications who are studying theater who've been able to do research all about why Hamilton was as successful as it was. I know people who were doing research on like old ancient English literature and where the comma actually came from. While not exactly the thing I'm interested in, there is so much research you can do. For me specifically, I'm helping my professor actually write his next book. So that's a really, really exciting project and something that we've been working on. young, but you can get started with research as young as you want at Northwestern. If you want to walk on your very first day and dive headlong into the research of art history or psychology or whatever it is that you're interested in, you'll have that opportunity. And what's really nice is that research at Northwestern is going to be a paid job for you. Northwestern really does want to prioritize that the work students are doing isn't just mundane stuff. You'll never be asked to go get coffee or make copies. Instead, you'll be doing actual substantive research. Like I said, I've been really fortunate. I'm helping my professor write his book right now. Last year, I was working in a gun crime lab studying gun violence on South Side of Chicago. In my freshman year, I was working in the political science department to try and help understand civil wars in Ethiopia. So you can really dive in head first. You can work on long projects, you can work on short projects, but whatever it is you want to study, whatever it is you're passionate about, there's going to be a paid opportunity for you at Northwestern to research it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I am going to take our next question because it's a relatively straightforward one. If you plan to double major in two separate fields from two separate schools, how do you decide on your homeschool? So your homeschool is always going to be the more specific of the two schools. So if you wanted to double major between the College of Arts and Sciences and the School of Communications, your homeschool would be the School of Communications, and you would pick up that double major in Weinberg. That is separate, though, from our dual degree program. So Kandise, being dual degree, can you just quickly explain the difference to everyone between double majoring and dual degree?
Sure thing. So for the double major, that can be easily done in 4 years. And as Elizabeth said, you have one homeschool. And what that means is that you only have to do the graduation requirements for your homeschool. So in that example, if your homeschool is the School of Communication, you only have to do the specific graduation requirements for the School of Com, and then have those additional major requirements for the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences. On the other hand, the dual degree program typically takes around 5 years to complete. That's not to say that every waking moment you're taking courses that have to go towards your various different specializations, but rather through having those 5 years allows you to have the same amount of academic exploration as double major or single major peers. And with that, you have to do the graduation requirements of both of your homeschools. In that case of being a dual degree, you have two homeschools. So for me, in my case, I did the graduation requirements of the Beaton School of Music, such as music theory and oral skills, on top of my major requirements of the voice major. And then on the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences side, I did the graduation requirements like first year seminars, as well as language courses, on top of the major requirements of the creative writing degree.
Awesome. Thank you so much for helping us to answer that. We have another question about the quarter system. So Maddie, would you want to talk a little bit about the quarter system and about how the quarter system has helped you and benefited you as a student?
Yes. So the quarter system here at Northwestern is we have a fall, winter, and spring, and then an optional summer quarter where people can choose to take classes, but a lot of people choose to go home or pursue other opportunities. But what's really great about the quarter system, I think for me especially, is the flexibility. I don't think it would be possible for me to do the 3 majors that I currently have really at any other system, just because it allows you to slot in so many different classes. Typically, students take about 4 classes per quarter, and it can be a mixture of your major classes. Maybe you want to do a cool elective and things like that. And so I think that's been really great for me. It is slightly faster paced, I would say, just because it is 10 weeks and that can be a lot to cover. But for me, I really like it because if, for example, there's a class that you just really want to get through, it's kind of nice to have a class that's only 10 weeks long. But at the same time, I think the 10 weeks still provides enough time to cover material over a lot of depth. And so that's something that I've really liked about the quarter system.
Awesome. Shifting gears now to some of the interpersonal relationships that can be formed at Northwestern. Bree, could you talk to us a little bit about your experiences with relationships with professors, as well as just general opportunities for office hours and making appointments?
Yeah, so kind of speaking along those lines, advising at Northwestern is a great way to form relationships with professors and just other people. And so Northwestern's really great about providing advising opportunities. So essentially, every major that you could possibly have in every school will have an advisor that goes with it, or even track. So let's say you're pre-med, you will have a pre-med advisor. And so I find that that's a really great way to form relationships. Also, as soon as you come into the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences, you will be given a freshman year advisor, which is actually the professor that runs your what we call your first year seminar, which is essentially just a writing seminar to get you prepped for college level writing. And I actually found that the professor for my first year seminar was a great match because he's actually a member of the psychology department. And I wasn't always originally a psychology major. And I found that he was a great person for me to look to in my decision to change to be a psychology major. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Adam, do you have any great professor relationships or examples that you'd want to share?
Yeah, that's a really hard one, actually. I have a lot. Obviously, I'm like really close to the professor I'm helping write the book with. The one I want to point out, though, was a professor I had my freshman year who was actually in the Department of Sociology, who was known as like, this kind of eccentric, fun professor. And if there was ever a moment where students were still getting ready at the beginning of class, or there's ever kind of a lull where people weren't really paying attention for whatever reason, he would always do something to kind of wake us up and drag us back in. So, for example, this wasn't like a funny joke. He would do like a 30-second head spin on the front of the classroom, or he would teach us how to break dance. And he would engage with us in these really interesting ways because he knows that being in a class like that sometimes can have a little bit of a lull in those introductions. But professors at Northwestern really do make themselves as available as possible. So like I said, I have a really great relationship with my professor who I'm doing research with. I was able to take one of his classes my sophomore year. I went up after to him and said, you know what, I really love this material. Is there anything else I should be taking here at Northwestern? And he gave me a whole list of history classes that I should take. Lo and behold, I took some of those classes and he would follow up with me. He would send me emails, he would chat, just see how I was generally doing. A few quarters later, I took another one of his classes and he said, do you want to do research with me? So it's really, really amazing. Professors will go out of their way to reach out to you. They want to make sure that you're getting the most out of the university, the most out of the class.
Awesome. Thank you. This is a really fun question. So, what is something about Northwestern that you wouldn't know from a Google search? So, maybe something that's not as easy to find or just kind of unique. So, Kandise, would you want to answer this question for us?
Sure thing. At least I'll say the one thing that I didn't know before I came to Northwestern is that we have an observatory on campus. We have a telescope, and our Dearborn telescope. And at one point, it was actually the largest telescope in the world. That was, of course, before things like NASA and things like that. But it's actually open and accessible for students to not only work with the telescope, say you're a physics student, but also just being able to go. The tour guides like to joke that it's the cheapest, most fun date night on campus because you're able to go learn a little bit about the stars, and if you want to do that next to somebody you like, that's also another plus.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So, we are going to briefly address some questions about being pre-med. So, how are students supported in pre-med? Can you be a double major in BNN and still be pre-med? So, there are actually a lot of different ways that students can be supported in pre-med. One, like we've talked about a lot thus far, are professor relationships. So, I've definitely found office hours to be immensely helpful, especially in some of the more complicated subjects that pre-med students will take classes in. We also have a lot of peer support opportunities, so peer guided tutoring sessions, drop-in tutoring hours, and then teaching assistants are also truly a phenomenal resource. While they never teach classes at Northwestern, they often hold their own office hours and are experts in usually the topics that they are a teaching assistant for. So that's just another great way to get support if certain office hour times don't work for you. And so I've always found myself and felt really supported in being pre-med at Northwestern. So definitely something that I was nervous about going into college, about being a little worried about Gen Chem. I didn't have a super strong science background in high school, but was definitely very pleasantly surprised with not only just like Northwestern institutional support, but also just finding a really supportive and collaborative community of students as well. I met some of my best friends actually being pre-med. And so that was something that was really exciting to know that I always had a friendly face in what can be really large classes. You can indeed be in the Bean School of Music and be pre-med. Being pre-med is not a major. It's just taking a certain number of classes. So really, whatever you want to fit into your time at Northwestern, we do have immense flexibility because of the quarter system. That is something that is possible for you. It just oftentimes will take working with your advisor and a little bit more precise planning about where you're going to fit certain things in, but definitely possible. We also had questions about clinical experiences like volunteering and shadowing. Maddie, I know you're also pre-med. Would you want to talk a little bit about some of these opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. So at Northwestern, we do have a medical school, the Feinberg School of Medicine. And so that provides a lot of opportunities for students to volunteer there in our downtown campus, as well as some outpatient clinics in some nearby suburbs that students also have the opportunity to shadow with. But I think for me, something that I found a lot of resources in is extracurriculars and clubs. I'm in a club called Chinatown Health Initiative, which serves to provide translation services in Chicago's Asian American community, as well as increase health access. And I think there I also got a lot of experience kind of on the front line and not also necessarily being like a doctor or nurse, but also more in the public health space. So there's definitely lots of opportunities to get involved, whether you're interested in being like a doctor or nurse, being a vet, all these different things. There's definitely communities and spaces on campus for you to find.
Awesome. And then Bree, we had a question specifically for you. Can you tell us about studying psychology at Northwestern?
Yeah, so I really love studying psychology at Northwestern. Um, I think my favorite part about the psychology department is the faculty. Each faculty member, in my experience, and I've taken a good amount of courses with every faculty member, and they are just so incredibly wonderful to work with. And I find that a lot of them have like good research opportunities. There's with a lab that I specifically work in, lifespan development lab. Like I said, we work specifically with emotions. One of the professors actually teaches the courses on emotions, which is really cool. But yeah, it's truly a great course, and I'm really excited to continue the next 2 years studying psychology.
Awesome. Yes, as a psych major, I can also attest to truly how great the faculty is and how interesting some of the classes are. I took a class on the psychology of beauty, and that was a truly, truly very interesting class. The kind of class that you go to, it's a once an hour or a once a week, 3 hour class. And you think, wow, this is going to be really long. How am I going to sit through a class that is 3 full hours long? And then all of a sudden the class is over and you have no idea because everything is just so interesting and you watch a ton of different films in it. And overall, just another really awesome class taught in the psych department. We have some more fun questions now. So, Adam, what is your favorite thing about being in Weinberg?
I think it's the diversity that we get in Weinberg. I think not that there's anything wrong with the other colleges at Northwestern, but Weinberg, I would say, is the most diverse when it comes to majors. So what you have is you have a bunch of students who might be in the same class together, taking the same distro from all sorts of different backgrounds. So I've taken distribution requirements sitting next to, neuroscience majors, next to art history majors, next to Hebrew majors. And you're talking with all these people, you're getting to interact with all these people, which at least for me is some of the things I'm most excited about in college, is getting exposed to all these different points of view and all these different ways of thinking. Also in Weinberg, oftentimes you'll see students double majoring, which only adds to what I was just talking about. Because you'll have people who are double majoring in, say, physics and theater, or Italian and astronomy. And these people come in and they bring such a unique perspective that when you're in a discussion section or when you're in a class, even if it has nothing to do with whatever they're majoring in, they will have this really unique way of looking at it. And I think it not only expands your own knowledge basis, but it really pushes you to be the best student you can possibly be, which is like a really, really, really fun thing to do in an academic environment.
So, Maddie, do you have a favorite part about being in Weinberg?
I think for me, what I've really enjoyed is having kind of a well-rounded education, and that a lot of my major classes are very STEM heavy, but because I'm in a liberal arts education program, I can take classes from other departments, kind of what Adam was speaking to earlier about kind of with the distribution requirements, you do get to explore so many other things outside of your majors. I've taken philosophy classes, I've taken history classes, and I've enjoyed all of them. And it's one, a very welcome break from sometimes having so many STEM classes in one quarter, but two, it also really opens your eyes to other things that I probably would not have unless I pushed myself to explore them, which I can do through Weinberg.
Awesome. We have a question about favorite study spots on campus. So, Kandise, what are some of your favorite spots on campus other than the observatory?
Definitely. I think one of my favorite ones I studied in a lot during my earlier years at Northwestern when I was living on campus is our Deering Library. We like to call it our Hogwarts building on campus. It's a lovely stone building with an ivory covering on it, and there's lots of natural lighting that's great in there. As well, one thing that is good to know is that there's Wi-Fi all across our campus. So if you want to study in a library, yes, you have that accessibility, but also if you want to go on the Lakeville and it's a nicer day, you could also do some studying out there. One of my more secret spots, I would say, if it's final season and there's a lot of people in the library, I would love studying in Kresge Hall. which houses a lot of our courses in the College of Arts and Sciences, ranging from language courses to ethnic studies courses. And it's a 5-story building. And so on each of those levels, there's a separate kind of lounge. That's super great that you're able to study. And then maybe if you have a question, being able to pop into your professor's office and ask them a question as you're studying.
That's awesome. One of my favorite spots on campus is a building called Silverman Hall. And so it's actually named after Northwestern professor Richard Silverman, who designed and synthesized the drug Lyrica that you may have heard of. And so the building has a lot of lounges going up to, I think, the 4th floor. And the lounges have a really beautiful view of the lake and a lot of campus. And not many people study there. So that is often always, especially during finals week, if you really need to hunker down, not see anyone. I'm the kind of person who, if I see my friends in the library, I'll start talking to them and then I'll distract myself. So being there and kind of seeing all of those people is really, really, or not seeing all of those people is really great in studying there. We also have questions about changing majors, changing homeschools. So Bree, do you want to talk a little bit about your experience? And then Adam, we'll hear from you.
Yeah, so I've had quite the experience with changing my majors. So I actually originally came in as a neuroscience major on the pre-med track. So I spent the entirety of my freshman year in the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences, fulfilling Weinberg distribution requirements and pursuing my pre-med neuroscience major. But then actually towards the middle of my sophomore year, I decided that I really liked psychology from one of the psychology courses I took. And so I decided to switch to a psychology major, which is fine because it's still in the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences. So I'd still be pursuing technically the same distribution requirements. But then even furthermore, I just recently decided that I really like the idea of a communication major. And so I transferred into the School of Studies. And I just say that that is an incredibly easy process to do. If you just, it's really just about filling out a form, meeting an advisor, and they can get you switched over. And one thing I'd also like to highlight on that is that the reason that we can switch majors so often and switch schools so often is because of the quarter system, I think. It's because we have so many class options and time for classes that it gives you a lot of flexibility to, really find your way at Northwestern.
Yeah, just building off of that. I mean, Bree pretty much covered it all. The quarter system really does remove so much of that pressure to decide on day one what it is you want to study. So I kind of use myself as an example. About halfway through my freshman year, I decided that political science is great, but I want to go be the next Anderson Cooper. And I decided all of a sudden just to switch over to Medill. So I emailed my advisor and I said, how would I go about doing this? How could I become a Medill student? They emailed me right back and said, it's just that easy. I'll start filing the paperwork right now. About 2.5 weeks later, I was enrolled in Medill. That's our School of Journalism. I lasted a whole 8 weeks there before I said journalism is not what I thought it was. I want to go back to political science. And I transferred right back over to Weinberg. I will still graduate in 4 years. I will graduate with 2 majors and a minor. It really is a very forgiving system, the quarter system. So it allows you that time to really say, you know what, is this what I want to study? Like Bree said, do you want to come in pre-med and then change your mind and end up getting a comm studies major? Do you want to come in like me, want to study political science, take a quick vacation into journalism and then right back to political science? You have these options. And I think that's one of the real benefits of the quarter system that doesn't often get talked about, is just how forgiving and how malleable it is to letting you learn what it is you want to do. Because if we're all being honest, there's no real expectation that a high school senior is going to be able to come in and on their very first day know exactly what they want to do with the rest of their life. Northwestern knows this, and they want to make sure you have options.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for sharing. Talking a little bit about opportunities outside of the classroom, we have some questions about study abroad and whether any major can study abroad. Kandise, do you want to tell us about your study abroad experience? I know you love talking about this.
Yes, I do. So I had the great opportunity of studying abroad this past fall for actually the fall semester in Milan, Italy, in a music program. And to answer the initial question, yes, you can study abroad no matter what your major specialization is, whether you are pre-med or an engineer or a radio, television, and film major. Everyone has the accessibility to study abroad, and that's mostly because we have academic advisors for every discipline to make sure that if you're taking courses abroad, that they're going to count for credits once you return back to Northwestern. In addition, if you study abroad with Northwestern, all of your financial aid goes abroad with you, so studying abroad should never be a question of if you can afford it or if you can graduate on time, but just truly a question of where.
Awesome. Thank you. And a little bit closer to home, but still off of campus, the city of Chicago. Maddie, I know you're involved with quite a few organizations that deal with different parts of the city of Chicago. So can you talk about your involvement with Chicago opportunities and also just a little bit generally about some of the internship opportunities we have at Northwestern?
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier that I'm part of Chinatown Health Initiative. I'm also in Supplies for Dreams, which is an education nonprofit which provides field trips and mentorships to middle schoolers in Chicago public schools, of which I'm a graduate of. So that's something really close to my heart and a really cool way that I found to give back to my community. But speaking more broadly, just in terms of internships and other things that you can do in Chicago, Northwestern has tons of different connections, but whether it's with current professors or with alumni. We have a really cool program called Chicago Field Studies, where students can take essentially almost instead of a class, they take this program instead, and they can be connected with a number of different companies in the Chicagoland area where they can get some real world experience outside of classroom learning. And so that's really great. And then just in general, being so close to Chicago, I know a lot of people also have found that the cultural opportunities nearby have been very valuable, whether that's to go to like the Art Institute or that's to go see a play in downtown Chicago. Being so close to a city really does provide a lot of different opportunities.
Awesome. Bree, do you want to talk about your experiences with Chicago?
Yeah. One thing I just like to note is that getting into the city is actually incredibly easy. We do have it, what we call the intercampus shuttle that runs from our Evanston campus to our Chicago campus. And that's a free shuttle that all you need is your wild card, which is your student ID. And so that's completely free. And then there's also the train system that runs from our Evanston campus into any place into Chicago, which is a really easy, accessible way to get into the city. And actually one time that I specifically used the intercampus shuttle to get into the city was during my freshman year seminar. So I was taking a course, it was called Mental Health Diagnosis and Treatment. And one little area that my professor decided to touch on was the psychology of choice. And so he actually took us, my entire seminar class, on the intercampus shuttle into the city to get dinner, just to see like, what were we thinking when we were choosing what we wanted to eat. So I thought that was a really cool experience, and just an easy way that integrated, the classroom into the city. And another time that I actually took the train into the city was when I volunteered for the Chicago Marathon. So that was a really cool experience. And that was my first time actually really going to explore the city as a freshman. So really exciting.
And I just wanted to tag on about some opportunities about the arts in Chicago, whether or not you're in the Beaton School of Music. As I mentioned before, I was in an a cappella group, and many of the a cappella groups on campus get to perform in downtown Chicago. 2 years ago, the X Factors, the group that I'm a part of, got to perform in the Field Museum, and after that, we actually got to go around and just tour the Field Museum, which is a super great opportunity. And then as well, there's lots of different discounts that Northwestern students can get just through being a Northwestern student, whether that's getting tickets to the opera that normally are around $500 for only $20, or on the more fine arts side, being able to go into the Art Institute of Chicago for free, as well as the Museum of Contemporary Art for free. And as well, Chicago is a city of neighborhoods, each with their own distinct personality. So if you're looking for maybe a new museum to try or even a new festival to visit, Chicago is a place that no matter how long you stay there, there's always something new and exciting to experience.
Thank you all so much for sharing your experiences with Chicago. As we narrow ourselves closer and closer to campus, we would be remiss not to talk about Evanston. Adam, do you want to talk a little bit about Evanston?
Yeah, it's the best. I always like to say that we have an amazing, amazing college down in our backyard and then a world-class city right down the road, Chicago. So Evanston has everything you will ever need right there for you. And it's only ever going to be about a 5-minute walk from campus. So when I say everything you ever need, I mean, we have movie theaters, we have 3 bookstores, we have over 40 restaurants. We have any and every opportunity for you to go out and experience nightlife or time during the day there in Chicago or in Evanston. So I know people who have it on their bucket list at Northwestern to go to every single restaurant there, and they write little reviews about it that they post on their own little blogs. Students go out there late at night to some place called Insomnia Cookies, which serves cookies till 3 in the morning, and these are fresh baked and they're perfect. You really can go and do everything there. So whether it's needing to run down to a CVS to go grab a notebook before that first day of class, checking out books at Barnes and Noble, going to locally owned bookstores, even going to the movie theater, Evanston's going to have all this for you. And just like Kandise was saying, you're going to get extreme discounts just for being a Northwestern student. So one of my favorite restaurants in Evanston is called the Furious Spoon. It's the this awesome ramen spot, they give us a 25% discount just for being a Northwestern student. So it's really, really nice. If you want to get away from campus, if you want to go somewhere with some friends, you can just take a quick stroll into Evanston, grab a spot to eat. You'll get a discount and you'll have some world-class food, because Evanston is called the jewel of the North Shore, which just kind of means that we have the best that you can have everywhere.
Awesome. And then finally, we are narrowed down to campus. So Adam, we'll actually kick it back to you once again to talk about some of the campus events that you're involved with that some of your student organizations have put on. And then Kandise would love to hear from you about Arts on Campus.
Yeah, of course. I think campus events are one of the things that make Northwestern unique amongst other universities, because we just have so much campus pride. So 3 events that I know always jump out in my mind are Dillo Day, Mayfest, and Fall Speaker Series. So Dillo Day, for those of you guys who don't know, is the largest student-run concert festival in the United States. It takes place every single year right on Northwestern's campus. It is entirely for free for every single Northwestern student, plus you get a guest ticket, so you can have all your friends from home fight over who gets to come. And this is not some small college little concert series. This is a massive, massive concert series. We've had huge names come. If you guys know people like Chance the Rapper, Kendrick Lamar, Smash Mouth, fresh off their hits from Shrek, all of these guys have come and performed for free for the Northwestern student body. And it's also the only day of the entire year where all the libraries are closed. Our university president, Morty Shapiro, says that no student should be inside on a day like that, and instead should be outside celebrating the warm weather in a hard-fought year. But that's just one activity Northwestern has. Another one we have is something called Northwestern Dance Marathon, which is the single largest philanthropic event put on by any university in the United States. So the way that works is you and 1,000 of your closest friends all come together into a giant carnival-sized tent, and you dance for 30 hours straight, only really taking breaks to go to the bathroom, maybe grab a bite to eat quickly. But in those 30 hours, you will continually dance to raise money for local Chicago charities. This last year or the year prior, we raised over $1 million. So we're raising real sums of money to make a real difference in our community and in Chicago. But again, they're not always big events. There are tons of smaller events going on all the time. So just in some of the organizations I'm involved in, like I said, I'm very involved in Northwestern College Democrats. We brought in Stacey Abrams to come and speak. We brought in former presidents to come and speak before. Other organizations bring in comedians like Pete Davidson, who was there my freshman year. There are all sorts of activities that are going on. And what's really nice is that whatever it is you want to do, whether it's you want to start a cooking club and teach cooking classes, whether it's you want to do, a big art thing and teach people how to sculpt, you'll have those opportunities. And if not, there's already probably a club that's doing that there on campus.
And kind of piggybacking off of that, I'll talk a little bit about Arts on Campus, and I'll specifically cater it to folks who are interested in the arts that aren't necessarily going to be majoring in it in, say, the Beaton School of Music. And one of the most popular ways of doing that, like I mentioned before, is through our a cappella groups. The a cappella groups are open to anyone, no matter what your major is. At the beginning of the school year, we have a super giant a cappella fest, which everyone comes and visits to see which a cappella groups they would like to audition for. And then from there are open auditions for across all of the schools. In my a cappella group alone, our music director was a biomedical engineer, our treasurer was as well as a biomedical engineer, and our secretary was a French major. So you have that kind of diversity of thought just in the a cappella groups alone. As well, there's more organized ways that you can be a part of the arts here at Northwestern as a non-major. 2 of those are the Philharmonia Orchestra, which is a completely non-major orchestra, as well as the Northwestern Camerata Singers, which is a co-ed non-major singing ensemble. What's great about those is that you can actually be in those ensembles and get academic credit and have one of your extracurriculars be a part of your curriculum. And one of our most popular clubs for Northwestern students that say aren't necessarily involved in the arts is our Northwestern Marching Band. We like to say that you don't necessarily have to have any experience with any instrument. During my 5 years at Northwestern, have now been asked 27 times to learn how to play the saxophone, and I've never touched the instrument. And the most popular major within the Northwestern Marching Band is engineering. So no matter if you are at the very beginning of your artistic journey or the very end, you have accessibility to partake in the arts no matter what.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. One quick question we got about studying for the MCAT and just some more pre-med things. I'm going to redirect you to a session that we have on our YouTube page with the Office of Pre-Health Advising. They cover all of the big exciting pre-med topics in that video in much more depth than we can go into on this panel, especially as we wrap up. So for our final question, we are all going to answer what is our favorite thing about Northwestern and also why Northwestern in general. So Maddie, do you want to start us off?
Sure. As typical as it's going to sound, my favorite part about Northwestern is the people. I've made some amazing friends here. Everyone is so collaborative and willing to help, whether it's like 2 in the morning and I'm texting friends trying to figure out a P set to even professors offering me so much help. I even had a professor help me fix my bike freshman year. And so everyone on campus is just so willing and open. And that's just something that I really value when I was looking for colleges. And I don't think there's one factor about Northwestern when I was making my decision about picking colleges. For me, it was a number of different things. I knew I wanted to be near a big city. I knew I wanted to be able to do something in the natural sciences and the social sciences. I wanted a school that would let me do all of these things and not have to pick one over the other. And so a lot of things just kind of fit into place when I came to Northwestern, and I'm really glad I chose it in the end. I can pass it on to Kandise.
Sure thing. So for me, as a Southern California girl, when I first heard about Northwestern, I figured, okay, Northwest is probably going to be in the Washington State, Oregon area, close to home. Sounds great. And I was honestly a little bit upset when I found out that it was in the Midwest, but I found out there was a beach that ran alongside the campus, so I decided to take a deeper look. And for me, I was one of the crazy 17, 18-year-olds that I knew I wanted to study creative writing and opera from the moment I stepped foot on campus. And Northwestern was one of the few schools that had both of those specializations on their registrar, but also would allow me to study them with the same amount of zeal. And now that I've come to Northwestern, I think that my favorite part about and having now attended Northwestern is just the academic exploration that is built into the curriculum. Even though I knew that I wanted to study creative writing and opera, I still had the opportunity to explore things like learning not only a second but a third language in our College of Arts and Sciences, as well as taking a class just for fun like Marriage 101. I found that particularly in the College of Arts and Sciences, through having those distribution requirements, have encouraged me to go outside of my comfort zone, as well as the academic flexibility of the quarter system of being able to take more classes, really allowed me to further explore my areas of interest. With that, I'll pass it off to Bree.
Yeah, so when deciding what school I wanted to go to, I was really like a checklist kind of girl. I had a lot of different things I wanted to fill. For example, I wanted to have a place that was like kind of a small college town, but I also wanted to be close enough to a big city. And I also wanted people who were just very collaborative and not really competitive. And I wanted somewhere that was really going to fulfill, my action. And I found that Northwestern just really fulfilled all of those boxes for me. I mean, Evan is the perfect little college town, being a step away from cute coffee shops to go study in, and being only a train ride away from Chicago, that it was an absolutely perfect environment. And then to echo what Maddie was saying about the people, I mean, you cannot get better than the people at Northwestern University. These are the people that will be in the library till 2 in the morning with you, studying on who knows what, whether you change your major from pre-med to psychology and communication studies. Yeah, it's really just a fantastic place that I think allows for you to do exactly what you want to do. And I'll kick it off to Adam.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about Northwestern is something that I feel like doesn't get talked a lot about on college tours, which is how fun the campus is. We've talked really, really extensively about how amazing the academics are, how you can do, monkey poop research however early you want, how you can study all these different things. But Northwestern is a place that combines in a really unique way an unbelievable academic amount of rigor with a truly, truly, truly fun environment. And so people will absolutely be studying till 2 in the morning, but you guys will be cracking up. You'll be having a good time. You'll be throwing chips at each other. You'll be having this really, really fulfilling college experience while also pushing yourself academically in a way that I would imagine if you're on this call, you are looking for. And so for me, that's one of my absolute favorite things about Northwestern. It's this confluence of really amazing academic opportunities with some of the most fun years of your entire life. So you can be a biomedical engineer and also be running an a cappella group. You can be a political science guy and say, you know what, I really want to go throw on this big event with Stacey Abrams, which for me is really fun. And you have all these ways that your passions and these things that you're discovering about yourself as you go through college are coinciding and actually growing alongside an opportunity to have just a ton of fun for what will be many times your first opportunity with like real independence. So for me, that's something that I've always really loved about Northwestern, and it's something I really want to drive home. It is a top tier university. It's recognized as one of the best in the entire world, but it is also one of the most fun places you could ever choose to go to school. And I will pass it over to Elizabeth.
Thank you all so much. I don't really think there is much more that I could say to give Northwestern all of the accolades that it deserves, but I definitely have loved my 4 years at Northwestern, and I have loved it so much. I'll actually be returning in a couple of years to go to the Kellogg School of Management to get my MBA. But it is truly such a great place, and I have met so many wonderful people like Kandise, Maddie, Bree, and Adam. So thank you all so much for joining us today. Before we sign off, I wanted to remind everyone that 2 of our admissions officers will be doing a Q&A on our Instagram, which is at Northwestern Admissions at 4 p.m. Central Time today. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you to all of our wonderful panelists, and please feel free to subscribe to and like our channel so that you can see more of these awesome panels with everyone. So thank you all so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day.